Hi.
Welcome. Well, thank you so much for joining us at our live launch event for Tibet Circle. This is a new network that was started just a few weeks ago. So we're really excited to be able to present this to you. My name is Melissa Ko. I'm one of the co-founders. And with me today is Lobsang Nyandak and Timothy Yuriev, who are also co-founders. And we'll be talking a little bit about why we started this new network, what our goals are for the network, and also give you a little mini tour of the site if you haven't been on it yet. And then Lobsang will be giving a presentation about the status of Tibetan refugees in and around Tibet, particularly since the past year has been quite difficult with COVID-19 and other events. It'd be very interesting to hear what is happening now on the ground and how we can help. So without much further ado, I thought maybe it would be helpful to introduce all of ourselves in the room right now. If you don't mind sharing a little bit about yourself, I know some of you are, but if you don't mind sharing a little bit in the Zoom room about, where you're from, and maybe mention something about what a connection you have with Tibet or Tibetan culture, that would be great, just so we can get to know each other a little bit better.
Melissa, maybe we should start with us. What do you think?
Well, I think we'll get around to introducing ourselves once we start talking about Tibet Circle. Don't worry about that. But,
all right. If anybody would like to say something.
And just feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to say something. No pressure.
Tori, Galen, yeah.
Sure, I'll go. Yeah, I'm Victoria Mudd. I'm a filmmaker on human rights, basically. And my connection to Tibet is that I through reading John Avedon's book, In Exile from the Land of Snows, I thought, if there's nothing else I do in my life, I have to try to help Tibet. So thus began a 12-year odyssey journey struggle to get the film Tibet Cry the Snow Lion made. So I went to Tibet once for 3 weeks, had an extraordinary experience. Our partners went 8 times. Mm-hmm. The footage is remarkable and the content is powerful and important. And I got to interview the Dalai Lama and meet him several times. My arm tangled for 4 days. Maybe it was only 3. Anyway, so yeah, I'm continuing to practice Tibetan Buddhism. So that's been my path for a long time.
I will second that about your documentary. It is really excellent, and definitely recommend people check it out.
Thank you, Melissa.
How about you, Galen?
I can go ahead, sure. Is this mic working okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, I did a little clip just to introduce myself with 160 letters. If you notice it on the website. I'm good at fighting websites, but I took Bodhisattva vows with Kenshin Trangu Rinpoche back about 20 years ago. So I'm an old fogey, or an old dog, as Trungpa likes to say. I can also bark, but I prefer dakinis. Anyway, I'm a former hospice volunteer here in Vermont. And I'm not active because it became too difficult during the COVID problem. Where we're still seeing people, or at least talking with them on Zoom or something. It's dropped back considerably. We don't get to hold hands with the people in hospital rooms anymore. So that's also dropped off the edge. What else do you know? I like The Little Prince, and I used to teach French.
So you were a student of Galen. You were a student of Trangu Rinpoche.
Right.
So was I.
I still am. He's still kicking.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He stayed here a couple of times in this little house and floated in my hot tub. I nearly boiled him alive, but that's another story.
Hey, it's a small circle.
That's amazing.
Luckily.
Yeah, he fled at the same time as Trungpa Rinpoche fled, and Trungpa Rinpoche was my first teacher.
Mhm.
And when Trungpa Rinpoche was here, I said, I'm kind of torn. Trungpa Rinpoche is my root guru. What's your relationship to him? And Trungpa Rinpoche just crossed his fingers, like, that's how close we are. So problem solved.
That's great. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Amy?
Yes, hi everybody. I'm just here to support and learn. I had just moved to New York City in like 2003 and was temping downtown and met Noang Chopal in at the same nonprofit so we were both working. Well, no, I was working there for whoever the top person was in a big cowboy hat, and he had been given some space by them so that he could work. And I learned about his story from him, how he had been wrongfully imprisoned, and it just kind of woke me up to the situation in Tibet. And that was also, we also spent the entire blackout together. So I heard a lot about his story during that time. I just really remember that time. And so I'm just here to support and learn about the culture.
Thanks, Amy.
Great, thank you, everyone. So I think without much further, we'll just launch into giving you a little bit of an intro to what Tibet Circle is, and also a little bit of background on ourselves. And I thought we would start with Lobsang La, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you very much. And it's really nice to be taking part in this launch meeting. My name is Lobsang Yendak. I was born to a Tibetan refugee family in India. And in this past 30 years, I have been able to serve the Tibetan community in various capacities, including as a minister of the Tibetan cabinet of the Central Tibetan Administration, representative of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, a member of the Tibetan Parliament in exile. And I also had the opportunity to play leading roles in several major Tibetan non-governmental organizations like Tibetan Youth Congress, National Democratic Party of Tibet, Tibetan Center for Human Rights and Democracy, etc. And now, presently, I'm the president of the Tibetan. So with this short introduction of myself, I was asked to give reasons why I'm involved in the Tibet Circle. I have two main reasons to become, or rather to volunteer as a co-founder of the Tibet Circle. Firstly, Tim and Melissa are my very close friends who really wanted to do something for the Tibetan people. Even though I know that I could contribute very little to what they have already accomplished so far with this network, I felt that my joining the team will give some moral support, as well as further encourage them to continue with their efforts to build and promote this platform. And the second reason why I involved myself in this network is that I was convinced that this network has a huge potential to serve Tibetans and friends of Tibetan people. I'm really very excited with the launch of the Tibet Circle because one of the main features of this network is to connect Tibetans and Tibet supporters worldwide with its interactive resource directory. I'm sure that all of you may have already visited our website and found that there are two main parts of this platform. One is the Tibet Circle community, and the other is the Tibet Circle directory. So I'll leave it to Tim and Melissa to speak more about Tibet Circle community platform. I would like to share my kind of excitement with the Tibet Circle directory, which is a searchable database of organizations and businesses serving Tibetans and our supporters around the world. This directory will help, hopefully anyone to find, information about, let's say, where is Dharma Center in Tennessee, if there is one, where are Tibetan medical doctors around in New York City, or Tibetan musicians, in North America or in Europe or in Korea, let's say. And where can we find a Tibetan lawyer in New York City who can, provide his or her services? And of course, different Tibetan cuisines, restaurants in New York City. So this database, hopefully would really connect, everyone who is, close to Tibet, Tibetan culture, Tibetan way of life, Tibetan politics, etc. And this directory is more than just a guide to finding Tibetan resources. It is a powerful crowdsourcing tool that displays the collective strength of the Tibetan community. Every listings in this link, in a link between Tibetans and supporters around the world, that forms a big picture just how widespread and important Tibetan heritage is today. And to achieve this vision, we really need help from all, people who are close to Tibetan culture, to visit Tibet Circle website and become a member, of this platform. And by joining the Tibet Circle, you are contributing to achieving our common goal. And therefore, we would like to invite, all of you to list your information in our resource directory, and also invite others to list their resources. And I believe that collectively we can build a mega network of Tibetans and our supporters. And we also plan to reach out to those who run Tibetan businesses, Tibetan organizations, Tibetan religious institutions, Tibetan professionals, including singers, musicians, doctors, lawyers, carpenters, artists, engineers, and those in other professionals, who has the potential to provide services to others. So, hopefully, we will try to reach out to as many people as possible, but obviously we will not be able to reach out to all of you. And, we would request out, people out there to contact us or visit our website to list your profession in Tibet Circle's resource directory. I'm also very much interested in promoting Tibetan businesses, in particular, those based in Tibetan refugee communities in India, Nepal, and Bhutan. We are currently discussing how best we can promote and support these businesses, through the Tibet Circle platform. We do not wish to limit our support to businesses. There are other professionals, out there in India and Nepal, within the Tibetan refugee communities, who are, let's say, graphic designers or fashion designers or different artists and painters. So, we're hoping that this will make a huge difference. This network will help, make a huge difference in the lives of thousands of vulnerable Tibetan households, in refugee communities, as we move forward. So we are still at the phase of launching, and we are hoping that gradually, this Tibet Circle network will expand throughout the Tibet supporters communities around the world, and hopefully that many people will take active participation in this platform and support the Tibet Circle in our mission to promote Tibetan culture and Tibetan people in general. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Very nice. Thank you.
Timothy,
Sure.
would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, everybody. My name is Tim. I grew up in Kazakhstan. Probably a lot of people heard about this based on what you saw from Borat movie. Maybe not. Well, I grew up in a Muslim country, and later, a little bit later, I migrated to the United States, became a creative director working for technological corporations. And a little bit in 2010, I founded a network that supports Russian-speaking refugees around the world, helping people to find jobs, housing, apartments, basically. And a little bit later, when I got tired of building my career, I went to Nepal and spent 6 months there. And that's where I met a lot of amazing Tibetans. And I, from the first point, saw how Tibetans lived and got involved in the helping Tibetan refugees a little bit there. But also a series of very interesting and a little bit strange events, strange to our modern world, happened to me there. And I met some Tibetan lamas that changed my perspective on what actually exists, what's the reality out there besides everything we can touch, smell, taste. So after coming back from Nepal, and meeting Melissa, she became my wife in New York. I wanted to help Tibetans, and we went to Tibet Fund and found Lapsang Nyandak and started talking about how we can create some kind of a network that can help Tibetan refugees and also support Tibetan culture that, as we know, slowly getting erased from the face of this planet. So with this idea, we originated the Tibet Circle, and 3 of us decided to build something that can help Tibetans strengthen their community and preserve their culture online. As well, you know that Tibetans losing their grounds right now, and their country is not independent anymore, so it's under oppression. So the place where Tibetans can meet each other and find the resources is online now. So that's why we decided to build it. That's it. Melissa?
Thank you, Timothy. So a little bit about myself. I guess you could say I was a lawyer, a former litigator, and then I transitioned into business development for a law firm in New York. And throughout my entire career, even though I was working in the legal field, I didn't really come across Tibetan issue much at all, even though there's tremendous issues going on with Tibet. And only until later in my life did I become more familiar with Tibetan culture by visiting Tibetan monastery in Woodstock, New York, and attending some lectures in New York City, and essentially discovering this wealth of information that I had never known about, even though I grew up in New York. And once I visited and really experienced for myself what the Tibetan culture and Buddhism practice was like, met people who were involved, it really touched my heart. It really transformed my life. And it really made me passionate about wanting to help preserve Tibetan culture and help the Tibetan people. So together with Timothy and Lapsang, we talked about developing some kind of network to really bring the various pieces of Tibetan culture around the world, all the different people, the diversity of people who support Tibet and who are influenced by Tibet is immense. And I think a lot of it is not surfaced or easy to find, particularly if you don't live in New York. It might be harder, or in places where there are very strong Tibetan communities. So one of the goals with this network is to really help people find resources, especially even if you're just someone beginning to learn about Buddhism or about Tibet. At least there's a starting point where you can see and find resources near you and find other people who may live near you who can help you. And then as time goes on to really work on developing the businesses and the organizations that have been around helping Tibetans for a long time now, to really help connect those organizations with others who may be new, but also across different aspects of the Tibetan support community. So I think, there's a spiritual practice, and then there's more activist side. There's also the humanitarian aid. There's so many facets to Tibetan life and protecting the culture that it would be really great to have a forum where we can meet and talk about all these issues together, no matter what perspective or what avenue we are involved in. And as Lobsang mentioned, to bring together artists and filmmakers and authors, and together with people who may have a different practice or different involvement in Tibetan community, and to really understand and dig deeper and showcase some of the aspects of Tibetan culture we may not see regularly, and also just keep the conversation going, so that no matter what happens in the future, Tibetan culture will be alive in all of us. So those are some of our, I think, great aspirations for this network, and we can only do it with your help. And I think at this point, I'm just going to, maybe for some of you who are not in the network yet, but who haven't yet checked it out, I'm just going to do a brief tour of what Tibet Circle looks like and show you what the directory and what the community platforms are. So I'm just going to share my screen. And let me know if you can't see it. Hopefully all of you can see the screen.
Yes, we can
great.
see it.
Okay, so this is just the basic, this is just the homepage for the Tibet Circle, www.tibetcircle.com, what our community platform looks like. Right now, there's not a whole lot of content on it, but our goal is to organize content to various main topics, including ones that are related to helping Tibetans. Community platform looks like. Not a whole lot of content on it, but our goal is to organize content to various main topics, including ones that are related to helping Tibetans. Community platform looks like. Not a whole lot of content on it, but our goal is to apologies there, a little bit of a technical issue. But just to go on the community network, we wanted to try to help people find resources more easily and discussion topics more easily. So we set up various topics corresponding to major issues in the community. So for example, a place where Tibetans and non-Tibetans can communicate to discuss help, immigration help, housing, jobs, etc., with people on the network. There's also a link to our directory, and then other topics related to Dalai Lama, contemporary Tibetan life, culture, environment, Dharma practice, and language, for example. And within these topics, people can communicate and write about different things that might be on their minds, or for us also to share any information about Tibetans that we think might be important to convey. And on this network, you can also meet other members. There's also events like the one going on today, and there's also potential to host classes through the network. And we also have a link to our resource directory. And this is what Lobsang was talking about, where this is a searchable database of resources around the world. And you can search by people, organizations, and businesses. So for example, if we want to see what Dharma centers might be in the New York area, we can look for, check off what organizations we're interested in. And we can even type in a location and it should pull up all the temples that are in New York. And then you can also see it on a map and find one that might be located near you. So this is just the beginning. We have maybe over 120 resources, which is a very small amount when you think about what exists in the world, but it's a start. And so we would really love your help in terms of adding new listings for different categories, for example, businesses as well. As we mentioned, we want to be able to help the refugee and immigrant communities. So we also have categories for different services, including housing, medical care, traditional medicine, for example, and other resources. And just to point out there, the directory and the community platform are related, but actually two separate sites. So if you do join the Tibet Circle community, there is a separate login required to join the directory. And if you join the directory, what that allows you to do is to add your own listing. So if you have a business or organization that you want to add, you can do it here. So there's a button for add your listing, but it will prompt you to sign in. So when you click on that, you'll just have to create an account, register, and then you'll be able to add your listing and select the different categories that are relevant for your listing so that people can find it. So that in a nutshell is our Tibet Circle platform. And I actually just want to pause for a moment in case anyone in the Zoom call had a question or about the different platforms.
Maybe let me add a little bit.
Oh, sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. In the community section, that's at tibetcircle.com. When we go there, we can create events, and people who we assign hosts of our network can create kind of events. Also, another functionality that included is the courses. We can create educational courses, for example, Tibetan language or cooking or dancing or anything like that related. So this way we can help to preserve Tibetan culture by running this kind of educational materials. So that's it.
Yes, actually, that's a really important point. Actually, one of the things that we want to do is to be able to go behind the scenes a little bit and maybe bring in a more intimate way through the classes for platform, for example, to actually bring people together and learn about different aspects of Tibetan music, perhaps performances, and talk to people engaged in those performances and really make that more accessible. And you know, there's a lot of people working within the Tibetan community that may not be famous, but at least in the Western world, but we definitely want to help bridge that gap through our platform. So thanks for pointing that out, Tim. So now we get to our main part of or the second part of our meeting, is which we wanted to have Lobsang La talk a little bit about the state of Tibetan refugees now, and sort of what has been going on, and maybe the different ways that we can help with that.
Okay, Melissa, thank you. Let me briefly share my thoughts here. Tibetans have sought refuge primarily in India and Nepal, and Bhutan as well, since 1959. And especially when People's Liberation Army of China finally occupied Tibet after almost 10 years of fighting between Tibetans and Chinese. And His Holiness escaped to India along with some 80,000 Tibetans in 1959. And we have been living as refugees since then, now for almost 62 years. The collective goal of the Tibetan people is to return to our own homeland one day, after settling the political issue of Tibet. Tibet undoubtedly was an independent country before China's occupation. Despite 60 years of struggle, we do not expect that Tibet issue would be resolved in a foreseeable future. While the Western world has started to see China as an adversary, China has already become a formidable foe that cannot be challenged easily, unfortunately. And nevertheless, Tibetans remain very optimistic. If this generation of Tibetans is not successful, we have ensured that the that the continuity of the freedom struggle in the next generation. What is important is the protection of Tibetan identity. Chinese government has changed education policy to teach Chinese as a medium of language in all Tibetan schools, from pre-primary to high school. And this policy is truly threatening the very survival of Tibetan, national identity or cultural identity, in our own homeland. Under the leadership of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and our government in exile, Tibetans in diaspora has been doing fairly well in preservation and promotion of our own language and culture. While Buddhism in Tibet is being strongly influenced by Chinese socialist ideology, Tibetan Buddhism is well protected in India and in in Nepal, and has spread widely in many parts of the world. We have democratic institutions and a vibrant civil society in the exile community. These have helped strengthen the Tibetan freedom struggle through programs such as education, healthcare, community development, and political campaigns at different international platforms, including United Nations. COVID-19 has brought huge sufferings to Tibetan communities, both in terms of healthcare and livelihoods, particularly in India and Nepal. In these past 18 months, we have, especially the Tibet Fund has made significant contributions in prevention and treatment of COVID-19, as well as to prevent vulnerable Tibetan families from falling into poverty. We have helped procure oxygen cylinders, concentrators, oxygen masks, PPEs, ambulance, utility vehicles for transportation of oxygen cylinders and patients. In fact, we have initiated programs such as subsistence support to pregnant and lactating mothers, support to women-led households with children, livelihood skills trainings to youth, women micro-entrepreneurship programs, and emergency COVID-19 subsistence relief. Over the past, maybe a little less than a year, we have spent over $1.8 million and made a difference in the lives of thousands of Tibetan households and individuals. We have, in India and Nepal, we have recorded 6,135 COVID cases, which is proportionately high given our very less community population in India and Nepal, and 146 deaths in India and Nepal. But nevertheless, as I said, with all these prevention and treatment programs, we have been able to save a lot of lives in refugee communities. Now, of course, there's a warning that the third COVID wave will likely come in the near future in India and Nepal. But fortunately, as of today, 90% of the Tibetans have received vaccinations, including almost 40% fully vaccinated. So we are hopeful that even the third wave, comes, this will not really be a major health issue for the Tibetan refugees. So these are several, issues that are pressing in our community in exile today. But nevertheless, there's a larger, Tibet issue for us to deal with to resolve the issue of Tibet. And Tibetans and our supporters, there are always different ways to support the Tibetan people at national level. So anyone who is interested to support Tibet issue politically can reach out to all these, very active organizations. And nevertheless, we have a Central Tibetan Administration based in Dharamsala, which has all the departments that cater to the needs, urgent needs of the Tibetan refugee communities. So I think with this brief presentation, I'll stop here unless you have questions, further questions, I can answer them.
I have
Thank you, Lapsang.
I have a question. I mean, with all these Tibet groups already in existence around the world, I do perceive the value of what you're creating, but I wonder how are you planning to reach out to each of the, like ICT and Tibet Fund and all the ones you mentioned? Are you planning to reach out and engage all of them in the Tibet Circle?
In fact, each of these organizations will have their own mission and programs. So they will obviously, undertake it independently. But nevertheless, this network or the platform that we have established will give them, opportunities to further, promote their programs, further seek support to the activities that they are engaged in. So, we are hoping that all Tibet-related organizations, either run by Tibetans themselves or run by non-Tibetans, I believe there are, equally more number of organizations out there who are run by non-Tibetans. So they could also involve and engage by using this platform. So, what we really need to differentiate here is this Tibet Circle platform, as we said, that we have two core objectives. One of them is to have that resource directory whereby anyone who is interested in Tibetan people, Tibetan culture, religion, and tradition can connect themselves, in that resource directory to know and learn more about, anything that has to do with Tibetans. So this is our objective, one of the main objectives. And then, of course, promoting, Tibetan culture, all aspects of Tibetan lives. This community platform will definitely, interest many people. That's what I believe. As Melissa said, that we will hopefully have different classes, and there are quite a number of Tibetan professionals, let's say artists, here in North America. So they could also take classes from this platform, teaching different Tibetan traditional songs, musics, dances. And similarly, there are Tibetan chefs who can teach how to make different Tibetan cuisines, including momos. So this is a platform anyone could hopefully find some kind of interest, because everyone is not interested in everything. So therefore, this is what we are hoping that organizations as well as individuals can engage themselves, to further promote Tibetan culture.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, it's a really good question, because there are a number of existing organizations as well, and so we don't necessarily want to substitute for that work, but we want to really help enhance it. So maybe bring it to a different audience, promote it to people who might not have known about it through the directory, for example. They can now find it, and then just maybe look for ways to collaborate or bring different groups together and have a discussion place. Because I think a lot of these events, they take place off in different worlds, on Facebook, at the location or different places. But maybe Tibet Circle can serve as a way, because of the way the platform is set up, there is a way to host events, and particularly for people who may not have the resources, organizations who may not have the type of communications or website to even host something, we could certainly help in that regard. So we definitely hope to be a bridge, and to really just maximize all the efforts that are being done around the world.
My video is kind of slow, but anyway.
Okay.
I wanted, as you approach somebody, do you need to get their permission to become part of Tibet Circle, to be listed? Like if I think I talked to you about the book groups, for example. do we need to approach that group of people to say, would you like to be listed, to get their permission? Or, we can try and sell it to them and give them reasons why. Have you developed any kind of an approach introduction letter that says, here are some benefits, would you be interested in being listed?
Yes, I mean, definitely we've reached out to some organizations. The majority of organizations we've actually listed. We've just listed. A few have been added by people. So we definitely do plan to reach out and let everyone know, and that would be the preferred approach. And so I think definitely, as to your point, we definitely want to get people to agree and to see the benefit and to make sure their data is correct on the platform. But we do try to present, the most flattering, if possible, to at least, this is really meant to show resources, not necessarily, to do anything other than that. There are Google reviews attached to some of the organizations, but really we are intending to be objective. And people who join the directory can also provide their own commentary and experiences with the organization, separate and apart from any other type of review that may take place.
I think this definitely is a very important, question. As of today, I think most of the information were, updated by ourselves. I think that is as is mentioned. But what we expect is that the people should be filling up their own forms through the directory. We have the information that can be listed by themselves, and then also we will be doing a proactive reach out to individuals by creating a form of sorts, and where we will also include a portion where the individual can sign that form to agree that his information or her information can be uploaded in the website.
I wanted to thank Lobsang for the update on the state of the Tibetan refugees right now. I think this information is so important, and so many people don't know or don't seek it out for themselves. But I'm maybe it's already in the Tibet circle under the issues, but I hope that this will be, perhaps it could be a one of the topics, that keeps getting updated. It's so interesting and helpful. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, that's a really good suggestion, to kind of keep maybe some kind of status update on our site, just touching on some of these issues. I'm not sure if everyone knows where the Central Tibetan Administration website is or visit it regularly, but so we can make it a little easier to find. And I actually do have some questions for Lobsang, if you don't mind, maybe just going a little bit more into some of the issues in Tibet. But with there's other recent events in Tibet, like the visit of China's president, and then some military escalations on the India-China border. I'm wondering how those events are affecting the refugee community there.
You mean the India-China conflict?
Yes,
affecting Tibetan refugee communities,
or what their sentiment, what the feeling might be there.
The general feelings of Tibetan people is all in support of India. We are emotionally very supportive of India because of various reasons. But I would say that there has been no change in the government policy, government of India's policy towards Tibetan refugees or Tibetan people. We always believe that the government and people of India, have been very sympathetic and supportive to the Tibetan people and our cause, irrespective of the changes in government irrespective of the changes in geopolitics, in Asia. So India is the one who provided asylum to His Holiness and the Tibetan people during the darkest period of our history. And not only have they, given us the political asylum, but they have provided a fertile environment, for Tibetan people to preserve and promote our own culture and religion. In fact, the government of India has helped lay a solid foundation to ensure the survival of Tibetan identity in the face of devastating cultural revolution that took place in Tibet when Chinese Communist government unleashed devastating campaign to eradicate anything that is Tibetan, our culture, our religion, our way of life. So Tibetans, generally remain eternally grateful to India, for being with us these past 60 years, irrespective of any changes in geopolitics. As I said, we are confident that India will always, support the cause of the Tibetan people. Now that the freedom struggle movement, of the Tibetan people has become more uncertain, given the more repressive policies that are being, implemented in Tibet, and the hardline position of the Chinese leadership, and at the same time the advance in age of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I'm sure that we will need further long-term support from the government and people of India.
And I also want to mention, I know that there was a new prime minister elected democratically among the Tibetan people to head the Central Tibetan administration. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that transition and maybe what that might hold, what kind of ideas maybe for the future of the government of Tibetans in exile, what that might be like.
You're right. We, just last April, we had the final election to elect the political leader of the Tibetan people, and Mr. Pemba Tsering, was voted to be the political leader of the Tibetan people. No, in fact, we have started this direct election of Tibetan political leaders since 2001, when His Holiness, semi-retired from the political responsibilities. And then gradually in 2011, His Holiness devolved his entire political authorities to the elected political leader of Tibet. So, I would say that, there are various reasons why Tibetan, opted for a democratic system of governance, which is beneficial to the Tibetan people. But one of the most important reasons is to ensure that in the absence of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, to ensure that the Tibetan leadership is, recognized and credited by the majority of the Tibetan people themselves by, electing their own leadership. So, this will help us ensure the continuity of the, Tibetan freedom struggle. So, as I said, that His Holiness devolved all his political authorities in 2011, and the elected political leader has the, the responsibility of ensuring the survival of our struggle. There is a vision of His Holiness. As soon as he, sought refuge in India in 1950, a year later, His Holiness, established this democratic system, and which has, over the past 60 years, have made a significant progress and culminating in direct election of the head of the government. So, you know, I know Mr. Pemba Tsering, the newly elected Tibetan political leader, you know, since the early 1990s. I recall having him in the organizers of the Peace March to Lhasa, when both of us were working in different Tibetan organizations. I was at that time working for the Tibetan Youth Congress as General Secretary, one of the main organizers of the Peace March to Lhasa. Then we have both been elected to the Tibetan Parliament the same year, for the first time in 1996. And he later served, you know, twice as the Speaker of the Tibetan Parliament. And then he also headed the Tibetan Parliamentary and Policy Research Center, which used to be based in Delhi in India. And he also served, you know, as the representative of His Holiness the Dalai Lama to the United States. So, you know, I feel that he has a vast experience and knowledge to lead the Tibetan people at this, you know, critical period. And now that he is the political leader of Tibet, every time he succeeds in his mission, you know, I consider this as a success, you know, of the Tibetan people. So, you know, even though in every democratic society, you know, we have, you know, minor issues and problems, and sometimes, you know, divisions due to excessive political, you know, one-sided propaganda. You know, here in the United States, we see this kind of political division, and in our community also, we do have, to some extent, this kind of, you know, problems. But overall, under the leadership of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, you know, Tibetans are fortunate that despite being in an exile, you know, environment, we have been able to accomplish, you know, very much so far. And fortunately, in recent months, the international community has also started to gradually recognize the leadership of the Tibetan people. So I think this is a huge advantage for us in you know, in getting the credibility of the international community, and also support from the international community to you know, to achieve our goal to return to our own homeland one day.
Thank you. Well, I think we're nearing our time up. I don't know if anyone, any last questions before we go. Well, thank you so much. I think, and Tori raised a really good point, is that, you know, Tibet sometimes falls out of the news, and especially with a lot of the things going on with the Uyghurs and, you know, in other parts of the world where there's a lot of oppression. Definitely Tibet should not be forgotten in those stories, and because it is happening, and we really want to, you know, help keep that at the forefront. So with that, thank you everyone for joining. Really appreciate your time and your contributions. We hope to see you on the Tibet Circle. In the meantime, please contribute to the directory. As Caitlin says, we need your help in your participation. So thank you so much.
Just something to say. Last thing, if you know any good associations, Buddhist group, definitely add them to our directory. We need it. If you know any important good people related to Tibetan community who can help us, of course, add them as well. Directory is open for anybody for entry, and the community too. If you would like to become house hosts and create events, that's possible too, or write articles, you know, start working with us towards unification of all the resources and all the important people, and bringing events more important, like it all together. Because right now, I don't know what happens where, right? We need to join all kind of different groups, and it's all disorganized really. So we're trying to bring it all together. That's our mission. So,
yeah, and I should say, if you do add something to directory, it does get checked, like we make sure that the organization actually exists and they have a website or they have some kind of presence that we can verify. So it's not just, if you add it, it's not just going to automatically appear. And Lobsang, I don't know, I just want to give you the final opportunity to say something if you'd like.
Oh, okay. As I mentioned, I really see a huge potential in this Tibet Circle because we are doing something which is not existing right now. So, so if this resource directory could really can be expanded over the coming months and years, I'm sure that, Tibetans and Tibet supporters could really get good use of it, take full advantage of the resources that we have. And most importantly, this platform, we are hoping to promote, talented and skilled individuals, wherever they are, mostly, Tibetan refugees are based in India and Nepal. So we do have talented and skilled and, professional Tibetans, but that they need to be promoted in some way or the other. So hopefully, the let's say Tibetan singer or Tibetan musician should not be confined, themselves to a small Tibetan community, be known to a larger, world stage. Through the Tibet supporters communities. So I'm hoping, that this Tibet Circle will definitely contribute, enormously in the times, ahead.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Perfect ending. Thank you all, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon or time with. Thank you so much for your time with us.
Thank you, Melissa.
Bye. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.